Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to a Viva-Mundo webinar. Today we are joined by the wonderful University of Kentucky over in the USA, and they will be talking to you about writing resumes and a statement of purpose to improve your writing skills. Now, please do ask any questions if you do have any in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We welcome all questions throughout the whole webinar, and that is what we are here to do. A little bit about Viva-Mundo and what we do. Essentially, we are here to help you on the next journey and chapter of your academic lives. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand the floor over to you, Mark.
Thank you. First of all, greetings from the University of Kentucky. Go Big Blue, as we like to say. Again, my name is Mark Williams. I'm one of the career advisors in our Stucker Career Center here at the University of Kentucky. And today I'm going to give you some tips and some things to consider when writing your resume. Before I go into actually writing the resume in itself, I want to give you some tips on how to kind of think about the skill sets and the things that you've already done, your experiences, and how to translate that onto your resume so that as you're presenting that for various opportunities, you'll be able to show that you have more experience and more things that you can do that you can definitely let a company or a school know about. So it is a story worth telling, translating your skills to your resume. Now, sometimes when we think about a resume, we think about almost like baseball. We're looking for that home run story. We're looking for that one thing that's going to be so just impactful that it's just going to blow everybody out of the water there. But sometimes it's more important that you just get on base. The simple things will add up over time. There are more than one ways to score in the sport of baseball, like I showed you before with the home run, or if you go around the bases 4 times, you can still get there. So when we think about the small things, those things add up too. Another example of how the small things add up is the Mona Lisa. I love this example because one of the interesting and the most intriguing things about this picture is her smile. Now, we see all the beauty of everything else around, but yet the smile is the smallest thing on this picture. So always remember that the small things add to the bigger picture. Now, Leonardo da Vinci is the one who created this wonderful painting. And in creating this wonderful painting, a skill set that he's really showing is his creativity. His creativity to think of something and create this masterpiece. But Leonardo da Vinci had other skill sets as well. He was an engineer, a lot of analytical skills, a lot of math skills. But one of my favorite things that he really exhibited was the fact that he was a team player. All right. Leonardo was a team player. He was a leader. And this is one of my favorite cartoons growing up, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Leonardo's the one with the blue mask. And they all have different skill sets, all have different traits. But in this, how do you go about articulating this on your resume? So I want to give you some tips that are going to help you with this process. First of all, what is your story? What is it that makes you unique? What are the things in your experiences that you've accumulated over this time? What is it that you have done that you would like to share with everyone else? So your story is an expression of your experiences. So as you think about the things that you've done and those experiences, is there anything that's been unique, anything that's kind of stood out that you really want other people to know about? And your story is going to be shared in multiple ways. One of the ways you can share your story is going to be when you have kind of this oral presentation, whether it be networking events, going to different career fairs, Even when you think about interviews, whether it be for a job or graduate school, these are perfect opportunities to share your story. Now, the other way we share our story is in the written format: resumes, cover letters, personal statements. These are where you will have the opportunity to express your experiences so that others can learn more about you and the things that you've done. So the question is, can you tell a good story, but more specifically, your story? So when you're trying to figure out, well, what should I share? What's important to share? I want to give you a process that will help you kind of figure that out. So, first thing you should do is just write it down. You want to validate it. What did you do? What are the things that you have done over the course of your time, whether it be collegiately, with your work experience? And the first thing you need to do is budget out time. I think a lot of times we want to sit down and we want to think that we've thought of everything through. But if you've given yourself intentional time and just write out what you've done, you can do it in bullet format. It doesn't have to be in paragraph. And just go through the process of writing out the different skills that you've gained, whether it be different experiences, and how you will go about that process of gathering that information. So give yourself time. To make it easy, like I said, a bullet format is short, straight to the point. And then what you can then do with that information is then translate it and articulate it in a resume. And I'm going to show you and talk about that process next. The big and the small things count. As we talked about in our example, we may have some great home run type answers, but those small things are important too. So, a process I would recommend is, what is your daily routine? So, as you think about your work experience, you might write down all the things that you do as soon as you start up to the point that you finish the day. And then afterwards, if there are some unique experiences that you want to talk about, that would be an opportunity to do that at the end. Now, after you've written everything down, you have to figure out, what is it worth? What is its value? And what are the skill sets that you used in this process? Now, in order for something to really have value, you have to believe it has purpose. And you have to be intentional about what that purpose means. I want to give you hopefully a great example of this. I was helping one of my friends with their resume, and they worked at a department store. And working at this department store, they were always on the cash register. And they said, Mark, I do the same thing all the time. I said, okay, let's talk about it. Let's write it down. And as we were writing it down, one of the things that came up was, I mopped the floor around the area of my cash register. And I said, that's great. That is perfect. And they just looked at me with this confused face. I don't understand how mopping really adds a skill set. And I told them this: if there's a spill on the floor, or if there's something that can hurt you want to remove that situation. So by you mopping the floor, you are actually maintaining a safe and clean environment for both customers and employees. And when we worded it like that on a resume, it was just like, wow. I never thought that mopping the floor can sound so cool, can sound so different. But we had to find value in it. And that's what we were able to do. The third thing is, you have to word it. You have to give it a voice. And what do you want to say about your skill sets? What do you want to say about your experiences? And that's where you have to be creative. So as I gave you that example about mopping the floor, we were creative about expressing what was actually done. So you want to use a thesaurus. Use different types of words that are really going to accent and really show what you're actually what you're actually doing. It's kind of like the Mona Lisa. You want to paint a picture. You want the person looking at your resume or your personal statement or your cover letter to be able to visualize and see the very thing that you are doing. Be expressive, but do not lie and embellish. A lot of times you want to say more than what is actually there, but you want to be truthful about everything. And so be cautious about how you're expressing it, but also understand you can be creative about what is being expressed. Some other final tips: do your research. Understand for the different opportunities that you're looking for, what are they looking for in a prospective student? Are they looking for certain skill sets? And even for your career endeavors, what are the skill sets needed for your industry? And so, as you think about your resume, if teamwork and analytical skills are great components to have, then maybe you want to try and focus definitely on those as opposed to maybe other skill sets where it may be relevant. That's not necessarily what they're looking for. So, I would definitely suggest doing some research. Look for opportunities to gain experience. So that means networking, going out and talking, finding people who are doing exactly what you want to do. Find leadership opportunities where you can gain different skill sets, and volunteering. Volunteering can go a long way. I think we look for a lot of paid experiences, but sometimes we just want to actually just have the opportunity to gain that experience because experience is experience and nobody can take that away from you. If you have other resources like a career center, as we do here at the University of Kentucky, that's a great place to have your resume, cover letter, and personal statement reviewed, maybe having some practice interview. The more you practice, the better things can flow for you in this process. So now that I've given you some tips on kind of how to look at a resume, I want to give you some examples of how to actually format and how to put things on your resume. First of all, a resume is a representation of you. It is about who you are, skill sets that you have developed, and you want to make sure you create interest with your resume. Now, we're going to talk about what interest looks like visually versus, as we talked about before, your voice. It's an outline of your relevant experiences, and it's just a sample of your history. Now, many of us may have a lot of great experiences that we would like to put on there, but understand that resumes in themselves are only one page. And being only one page, we can't put everything on there. I'll also tell you that resumes will not get you the job or won't get you into the grad school specifically, but it's the stepping stone to the next step. And so for a resume design, first of all, you want to keep it simple. Avoid different charts, different tables, a lot of lines. You want to make sure that it looks very clean, concise, straight to the point. So keep it simple. You want to be consistent with your different fonts, your styles, because you don't want to draw a lot of distraction by the way it looks. Try not to use resume templates. I know this can be this is a very good starting point to use a template. However, if you need to make adjustments to your template because it may be off when you print it, that might cause some problems because you cannot change the actual outline. So be mindful of that if you decide to use a template, but wouldn't necessarily recommend it. More does not mean better. A lot of times we want to fill a resume with all of this information, but in reality, sometimes if we just put just enough to show the skill sets, it will not be overwhelming when you look at the resume. Now, resumes in themselves are subjective in style. The way you may arrange it and what information you put on there is very subjective. Even working in the career center, we have a lot of great I work with a lot of great colleagues, and we all have different styles that we may offer, and there is no right format regarding a resume, and some of us have preferences for various reasons. However, if there's anything that's going to be objective on your resume, it's going to be your content. What is actually being said? Because you don't want to leave room for interpretation for the skill sets that you've gained. And so that's something to definitely consider. Now, there are also two things to consider that I like to offer is cosmetics, which is, does it look like I want to read it? A lot of times we can really overwhelm a resume with a whole lot of different um, kind of graphics, lines, and we want it to make it look appealing. But if it looks hard to read, sometimes people may not read it at all. So that's just something to consider. But also your content. What is this saying about my skill sets? So those are two things you want to consider in your resume. As I said before, it should be one page, and this is different than a CV. And one of the differences is specifically the length. Resume is one page, it is literally a summary, while a CV has more content, more information. You can go beyond one page in a CV, but a resume is straight to the point in that regards. You want to be careful not to use abbreviations and be consistent. Abbreviations, especially as you're thinking about a resume, you want to believe that someone has never is someone that you don't know. And by using abbreviations, I may not know what those things mean. So just be mindful of that. A lot of white space and indentations, you want to be careful with those. And so, yes, you want to kind of fill it out, but that doesn't mean you have to necessarily fill the resume up. And more importantly, be careful about misspelling and misused words. So here's an example of a resume um, that was just kind of created. As you can see, the format is straight to the point. It's consistent in terms of its spacing. One of the things I want to show you is that for me, in terms of a style and format, there is no objective. And I chose not to put an objective for two reasons. Number one, being a resume, you want to try and save as much space as possible. And so the objective is really covered in the cover letter for the most part. And so that's just another example of how you can save some space. Some other important information is GPA. Typically recommend that if you have a GPA of a 3.0 or better to put that on your resume because it shows how you're doing regarding your course credits and then your university information. As you can see here with the work experience, we have room for a title, place of employment, city, state, if you're depending on your location. So wherever your home country may be, and also how long you've been doing this. On a resume, you want this to be in reverse chronological order. So your most recent experience first, and then following down accordingly. Another thing to show consistency that I've done on here is to show that under each category, so for example, work experience, there are three bullets. And so if you want to do consistency, then if you use three bullets for one, you want to use it for all of them. Under leadership experience, that's an opportunity to talk about things and positions that you've been in that may not have required you to be paid. Volunteer experience, that's a great place to put that. Then under organizations, it doesn't require any bullets, but it does acknowledge that maybe you are a part of an organization where you didn't do a lot, but you at least wanted to offer wanted to be recognized on your resume. And with that format, it saves a lot of space. Last thing I want to emphasize on this example is that the name is the biggest thing on your resume. It's typically around a font size of about 20 to 12, 20 to 22, excuse me. And then on here, the font size overall is 12, whereas my headers are 14. So it's just a little bit to let it stand out a little bit bigger. This is just an example of how to kind of talk about some of the things you can say on a resume. So if you look on the left, it talks about a cashier, so handling cash or credit card transaction. Another way you can look at that is saying processing transactions averaging 3,000 per shift. So numbers pop. You want things that are going to kind of stand out. The more you use things that can really highlight an accent, the better it will help you stand out in your content. Just to give you again some more tips and these last minute tips here, pay attention to capitalized words, and let's say before, be objective as possible. You want to be able to spell out the dates and everything that is on uh, completely. So like January December, you want to spell out the actual months. And then avoid repetition. Use different types of action verbs and things that are going to really highlight. And more importantly, make sure you proofread uh, everything that you put on there. Get feedback from your mentors. Again, proofread, and proofread. And then you want to save in multiple formats. So like a PDF, a Word doc, so then that way you can be able to test how it prints. And then last, your resume is like a car. The more miles you put on it, the more you need to make sure you get it checked and managed. So those are just some tips that will help you with your resume. And if there's any other tips that I can offer, just continue to just work, gain some experience. And then as you take that, translate it onto your resume and get ready to talk about the great things you do in your interviews as well. So that is all the information I have for you regarding resumes.
Thank you so much, Mark. We're going to switch over to Angela now. So Angela, when you're ready, go ahead and share your screen.
Hi, I'm Angela Garner with the University of Kentucky, and I'm the coordinator of International Graduate Student Initiatives. I work as a lecturer for the Center for English as a Second Language, and also consult on admissions issues related to international students and language proficiency. Today, I'm going to talk about writing statements of purpose. So you may hear the term statements of purpose. You may also hear the term SOPs, or you may hear the term personal statements. Sometimes statement of purpose and personal statement are used interchangeably. They're not exactly the same, but oftentimes used interchangeably. So let's talk about here the goals of your statement of purpose. Okay. First, the ultimate goal of the statement of purpose is to convince the admissions committee that you are a good fit for the program and that you can contribute to the department. Statement of purpose is one of many pieces to the admissions puzzle. It's unlikely that a phenomenal statement of purpose will offset bad grades or lack of experience. But it is really your opportunity to tell your story in a way that cannot be gleaned from your resume or your transcripts, okay? For a department, an admissions committee would probably maybe be 3 or 4 people, and then maybe they represent a department of 30 or 40 faculty. And so they're going to look in that document to see how you will fit in that program and also how you can contribute to the department. It's also important when you get started to write an SOP, it's imperative that you check the department website and also the graduate school website for any guidelines related to an SOP. Sometimes departments will have a specific question that they want you to answer. Maybe something about service learning or service leadership, perhaps. Or they may want you to talk about a particular research experience that you've had. So pay very careful attention to those guidelines and be sure that you follow them exactly. If they tell you that an SOP should be no more than 500 words, then you need to limit it to 500 words. Oftentimes there'll be computer programs or algorithms that an application might be sent through. And if it exceeds that limit, that could be a problem. So read those directions very carefully and be sure that your SOP follows those guidelines. Okay? That's the first place to start and extremely important. Generally speaking, an SOP answers 3 questions. Okay. What have you done thus far that has prepared you to be successful in graduate school? What do you want to do, to learn, or to study in graduate school? And why do you want to study in the graduate program at the specific university that you're applying to? So this is usually the format that is followed unless a specific prompt is given. So let's break down each of these 3 questions. First, what have you done thus far that has prepared you to be successful in graduate school? The most common mistake that applicants make here is that they simply restate information from the transcript, telling the committee what classes they took, what their grades were. Okay. That information is already available to the committee. So instead of restating that, you should expand on your story and focus instead on particular research that you have conducted. If you're applying to a PhD program, research is at the heart of what you will do. So tell the committee about research that you have conducted. If you haven't actually conducted a lot of independent research, maybe because you're coming from undergraduate, straight from undergraduate, you haven't had a lot of experience, then instead talk about the papers or projects that you have worked on in your upper level classes. Most universities have some kind of senior seminar or a capstone class where this is sort of the culmination of your undergraduate degree, and it's a project that you can highlight. And that's a really good project to include and talk about in your SOP. Another option would be to talk about the skills learned. And if you're looking at doing something more STEM focused, you could talk about the equipment that you're comfortable working with, the lab techniques that you have replicated, any kind of analytical skills or softwares that you are confident in using. So talk about those things as well as the insights that you have gained in your field. So it's not sufficient to say, this is the project that I did, but rather, this is why it's important. This is what we have learned from this project, and this is how it contributes to the body of knowledge in your field. So don't restate information from your transcript. Instead, flesh it out and tell us a story that cannot be read on the transcript. If you have another graduate degree, maybe you're going from a master's to a PhD, then you want to start your SOP by talking about your master's, okay? Don't start with talking about your undergraduate degree. And don't include information, research that's related to your high school experiences. You want to start with your most recent experiences and work backwards. And ultimately, your goal here is to demonstrate to the committee that you have the experience, both professional, in the lab, in academia, that you have the experience that you need to be successful in graduate school. The next question to consider here is, what do you want to do, learn, or study in graduate school? Okay. Be specific. What is it exactly that you want to focus on? Right? You're not going to talk about biology as a huge field, but instead you might talk about particular aspect of biology. I don't know, research with crayfish, for example. So really focus narrowly on what it is that you want to study when you are in graduate school, and explain how you anticipate that using the information you learn in graduate school will be helpful to your future career, okay? And by this, like, these are the skills, this is the knowledge base that you want to gain, this is what you feel like is missing, all right, in your background. And then what is that, and how is that going to help you as you move forward in career decisions? Don't focus on job titles. So don't say, I want to be a professor, but instead focus on the skills that you hope to gain and to practice, and then how you will use those skills in your career. So that's the second main question that you want to answer. The third question is, why do you want to study in the graduate program at whatever the university's name is? Okay. So in this respect, while there are going to be some similarities in an SOP, the basic format will be similar. It's also going to be tailored to each school. Okay. So do your research online. If you're applying to the biology department at the University of Kentucky, then go to the department website, look at the faculty, pull up their CVs, look at the recent research projects that they have published on. Look at the title page for the website. What is it that's being highlighted there? Okay. That's a definite area of excitement in a department. Look at graduate students' profiles. Oftentimes, departments will tell you who their graduate students are, maybe whose lab they're working in, and grad students may have a little bit talking about their research interest. So it is very important that you go to the department website and really do your research here. You're going to focus on specifics, looking at the strengths of the program that you're applying to. Maybe there are 3 professors who are looking at reproduction of invertebrates. Okay, so you would focus on that. So focusing on the strengths of the program, and then also you may even want to choose to identify some professors that you would like to work with. Okay. Some departments may ask you to contact the professor in advance to communicate with them and share your interests. Other departments want you to apply, and then you would be accepted, and then that connection with the faculty will happen once you start your graduate degree. So departments usually would identify on their website the preferred approach, but you do want to identify several people that you are interested in working with. And I generally suggest 3, because if you just limit it to 1, what if that faculty member is going to be on sabbatical for the next year? Or maybe the lab is full for that faculty member. They're not accepting new students. So by demonstrating 3 faculty that you're interested in working with, and then how your research would prepare you to work with them is critical. Okay. When I say focus on specifics and strengths of the program, you do want to be really clear here. This is an example in red of what you don't want to say. Don't say something like your program is one of the best in the country, or the brilliant faculty at whatever. While the program may indeed be one of the best in the country, and undoubtedly the faculty are brilliant, instead of saying that, you want to show that you have done your homework and you understand in what ways are the faculty brilliant, where are they excelling, or how is the program, what makes it unique, what makes it top-notch. Okay. So you're going to demonstrate that in your SOP. And as I said, each SOP will be slightly modified for the universities that you are applying for. Your experience, you might choose to focus on different aspects of your experience, depending on the strengths of the program that you're applying for. And then that last part, when you talk about the particular department, that is most definitely going to be unique. Be careful, don't make a mistake and write the wrong university in the application. We recognize that you're going to quite likely apply to several different universities, but be sure that your SOP aligns with the university that you're applying for. For example, you don't want to mention the wrong university. Okay, so that's a way of answering the third question. Now, here's some important considerations. First, start early. if you're looking at a February 1 application deadline, you should start writing your SOP now. This is not something that you start the week of. You should start several weeks, I would argue even months in advance. You want to allow time for drafting, writing your ideas, and revising your ideas. Be sure to get feedback from others in the field. Okay? If you're still in academia, share your SOP with one of your professors in your field. Have them look at it, not from a grammatical standpoint, but ask them to look at the content. Does this do and say what it should? And I would recommend sharing that SOP with a couple of different faculty who know you well and can speak to your experience and can help guide you in what to highlight. Once you've got the content and the organization down, and that direction would come from professionals in your field, then seek out someone who can actually help you with the writing. Perhaps there's a writing center on your campus who can look at it and make sure that there are no grammatical mistakes, no misspelled words, that everything flows smoothly, because this is indeed your chance to highlight both your skills and experience, but your ability to communicate professionally. And as you're thinking about graduate school, part of what you will probably be asked to do is think about publications. And so this is just an early glimpse into your writing. So be sure that you get feedback on writing from your field. And again, this is probably going to take several times. I've worked in writing centers before, and it usually takes about 3 visits, 3 conversations about the writing before it's polished sufficiently for submission. And then again, I want to reiterate following application directions exactly, whether that be how long it should be, the question that is asked, whatever the case may be. So that is imperative. Okay. And then I want to share with you one final piece of information here. These are some additional resources. And I want to focus here on the Writing Your Graduate School Application Essay. This is a PDF that is released by Carnegie Mellon University from the Global Communications Center. It is exceptional in showing how you take blasé, bland language like the brilliant faculty of X university and turn that into a sentence that actually says something, right? So I would strongly encourage you to check out this PDF so that you can see some not so good and some much better examples of sentences and statements, paragraphs that would be in your statement of purpose. Okay, so now I'm going to stop and I'm going to transition to Beth with the Stuckert Center, who can talk about some of the career resources that we have.
Thank you, Angela. Hello, everyone. As Angela mentioned, my name is Beth, and I am here at the University of Kentucky with the Stuckert Career Center. So I would like to take just a few moments to talk a little bit about the services and resources that we have to support our graduate students. Here at UK, it's a great place to be a graduate student. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about why. So no matter where our students are from, what they plan to study or pursue at the University of Kentucky, and what they plan to do afterwards, we offer a great foundation for them to grow academically and personally and professionally as well. So first of all, in the category of involvement and engagement, right away, students that come from anywhere really are ushered into a new student orientation so that they are well aware of how to navigate our physical campus and also our resources. And at a large school like this, we have many places to go and many things to do. So we want everyone to become comfortable here right away. And in addition, at the University of Kentucky, we have an excellent international center. So this is where international students can receive academic support, sponsorship assistance, pre-arrival coordination, and many other things as well. We have graduate and professional school organizations such as our Graduate Student Congress. And so our organizations look to unify the graduate school student body and provide social events such as ice cream parties and leadership conferences and opportunities for engagement in many different ways. In addition, many of the academic departments also provide resources such as potential funding for travel to professional conferences or visiting scholar talks, among many other things. In addition to involvement and engagement, we offer resources related to professional development. So we want our UK graduate students to be able to grow academically and professionally in order to further their potential with their careers. So we have a program, for example, called Preparing Future Faculty. And so this is an opportunity for students who may want to explore a career as a faculty member. So we look at the teaching aspect, the research aspect, and then the service aspect as well. And then Angela mentioned some of the resources that we have to help students with writing, such as the Writing Center. We also have writing camps where a certain portion of a day for a certain number of days, graduate students have the opportunity to come together and commit to and get motivated to complete some of their writing. We also have a proposal development office that can help with developing dissertations, for example. And then third, this is where Mark and I come in with the career preparation. So there are many resources at the University of Kentucky for career exploration for graduate students and planning and preparation. So we have events that are both virtual and when we're not during times of COVID-19, we have them brick and mortar on campus as well. Events such as career fairs where we bring in hundreds of employers. We have recruiting events, we have networking opportunities. And you can also have individual appointments with career professionals such as Mark and myself and our many colleagues to work on your resume, to work on your CV, to prepare for interviews, to learn about networking and professional etiquette as well. So as I mentioned, the University of Kentucky is a great place to be a graduate student. And yeah, just thank you all for being here today.
Great, thank you so much for your brilliant presentation. Again, please do ask any questions in the Q&A. I think we have some time now to answer some of those. So I'm going to refer to some of the questions that were previously asked in the registration form. Okay, let's see. So there is one particular question asking, can I be creative with my resume or do you prefer a more academic style?
I will go ahead and take that question. I would definitely suggest being more creative with your words as opposed to the actual style and layout of the resume in itself. I think a lot of times we want to use different colors, different pictures because we want to stand out. But at the end of the day, what's going to really stand out is your experiences more than anything else. And then that's best articulated through the words as opposed to through the look. And as I said before, if it looks difficult to read, imagine having 300 resumes that you have to go through. Well, on average, someone may look at a resume in about a minute and a half, about 2 minutes. And so if it looks difficult to read, then you're wasting time in that process. So I definitely would suggest more in the words than the actual layout.
Great, thank you for that answer. The next question is, I guess, open to any of you. What is the institution looking for in a resume and statement of purpose of a future student? I guess this is more aimed at university than resumes for work.
Hi. Yeah, I think the things we covered today pretty much reflect what the university is looking for. So I think all of the advice you got today, you can definitely apply to directly to applying for the grad school at UK. And then, as Angela mentioned in her presentation, the most important thing is to check with the program that you're applying to and make sure that you're following their recommendations first. So if you go to our website, I'll link it here in a second, and we have links to each program so you can select and review their requirements. And oftentimes, if they have something specific they want to see in your statement of purpose or your resume, they will list it out there. So it's always important to check that first. Otherwise, the information you got today would be what I would recommend following.
Okay, thank you so much for that answer. I would agree with probably Emily there, and you have had a lot coming in of information, and a lot of the art questions from the pre-registration has been answered during the webinar. If you do have any questions, do put them in below. If not, you can feel free to get in touch with University of Kentucky, and they have I think they've linked their information in the chat. There's particularly one more as well. You know, how have you got any last words to kind of tell students how they can stand out in a resume? You know, apart from being creative, maybe volunteering information. How would you suggest a student can stand out in a crowd, particularly in this particular climate?
I'll take that. Hi, I'm Suzanne. Right now with this climate, but at any time, that resume and personal statement are really your representatives to anyone looking at a file for admission or even a job. But at the same time, for graduate admissions, it's very important that you make contact with the program that you are applying to. The research that Angela talked about the faculty is important so that you can make the appropriate contacts that are going to be able to guide you through your graduate career. For example, if a university and a program that you are looking at does not work in the area of your interest, it's important that you know that so that you can adjust or you can find a place that is right for you. It's important that this is a good match. So standing out is a big part of finding the right match and making the contacts and reaching out to the faculty to let them know what you want to do with your life and to make sure that this is the right place to start that journey as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Suzanne. I'm not sure if anyone else has any last words that they would like to add. Mark?
I'll add one thing. One of the best ways to stand out, whether it be for an interview, resume, as we talked about with telling your story, is to let your personality shine. You can always duplicate a lot of resumes in terms of GPA, different experiences, but the one thing no one can ever duplicate is you. And the more you allow your personality to shine, the more people can understand and get to know who you are and how you're able to convey that message, the more people can see you as an individual, and then you're going to stand out from everybody else that way. So let your personality shine. The more you can do that, it's going to help you stand out from everyone else.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for today, and thank you everybody for your input and amazing information. I'm sure this will be valuable to many, many students that are in the current climate and for the future as well next year. I think all the information has been put in the chat by Emily. If you do want to reach out, they have all the information in the chat for you there. You will be sent this by email, so don't worry, you will be getting a full email of the recording of the webinar. Thank you for attending, and do check out viva-mundo.com and sign up to our newsletter to find out more on international studies. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you.